Kody Brown spent years insisting that family loyalty was everything. Yet the deeper viewers looked into the fractures inside the sister-wife family, the clearer it became that loyalty inside the Brown household often flowed in only one direction. By April 2026, one of the final emotional ties connecting Kody Brown to his adult children quietly disappeared, and the revelation came not through a screaming argument or explosive confrontation, but through something much colder and far more revealing: honesty. Mykelti Brown finally admitted that her relationship with her father had depended heavily on her husband, Tony Padron, acting as a bridge between them. That single confession changed the way many fans view the entire family dynamic because it exposed something painful hiding underneath years of public appearances and carefully managed narratives. For a long time, Mykelti appeared to be the exception among Kody's older children. While several siblings drifted away emotionally, kept their distance publicly, or openly discussed hurt and disappointment, Mykelti continued maintaining contact and trying to preserve a sense of connection. To viewers, she represented proof that perhaps things were not completely broken between Kody and all of his children. But when she explained that the connection only functioned because Tony made interactions easier and because she herself kept choosing to maintain the relationship, the entire structure suddenly looked fragile instead of genuine. What shocked viewers most was not bitterness in her tone, but the calm clarity behind her words. She did not accuse her father of never loving her, nor did she paint herself as a victim seeking sympathy. Instead, she described a dynamic that had quietly exhausted her over time. The emotional burden of keeping the relationship alive had apparently rested mostly on her shoulders, and once she stopped carrying that weight, there was nothing solid underneath it to keep things standing. That detail matters because it changes the conversation completely. This was not a dramatic fallout built on one explosive moment. It sounded more like years of emotional labor finally reaching a limit. Fans who have followed the Brown family for over a decade know that many of the adult children grew up navigating complicated emotional terrain. They witnessed constant household restructuring, emotional tensions between parents, shifting priorities, and a family culture that often demanded sacrifice in the name of unity. Those experiences shaped them differently, and as adults, many began reassessing the relationships they once fought hard to maintain. Mykelti's situation stands out because she lasted longer than most in trying to preserve closeness with Kody. Her willingness to keep showing up created the illusion that the father-daughter bond remained strong, yet her recent comments suggest a connection may have depended more on convenience and mediation than genuine emotional repair. Tony's role became central because he entered the family without decades of unresolved history attached to him. Unlike Kody's children, Tony did not grow up carrying memories of painful moments, disappointments, or emotional absences. He arrived as an outsider who could interact with Kody without the emotional baggage the children themselves carried. That naturally made their relationship easier, lighter, and less complicated. Viewers often notice how relaxed Kody appeared around Tony compared to many interactions with his own children. There was humor, ease, and comfort that sometimes seemed absent elsewhere. The difficult truth is that this warmth may have been entirely genuine, which actually makes the situation sadder rather than better. It suggests Kody found it easier to connect with someone who had not lived through the family's most painful chapters. Mykelti eventually recognized this imbalance, and once she truly saw it, she could no longer ignore it. Her statement implied that she had been facilitating access, smoothing tensions, and helping create conditions where a relationship could continue functioning. Once she stopped doing that work, communication stopped as well. That is what left many longtime viewers unsettled. Healthy parent-child relationships usually survive without a mediator constantly holding them together. Yet hey, the bridge itself appeared to depend on one daughter continuously choosing to maintain emotional stability for everyone involved. The moment she stopped, silence followed. That silence speaks louder than any televised argument ever could. It suggests that beneath years of family speeches about togetherness and loyalty, many relationships within the Brown family may have relied heavily on whichever person was willing to absorb the emotional strain necessary to keep the peace. What makes this entire situation even more emotionally charged is how deeply it challenges the public identity Kody Brown spent years building around himself. Throughout Sister Wives, Kody repeatedly described himself as the center of the family, the leader responsible for guiding a large and connected household. He spoke often about respect, loyalty, and unity, presenting fatherhood as one of the defining purposes of his life. Yet the longer the series continued, the more viewers noticed a growing emotional distance between Kody and many of his older children. One by one, If the strongest remaining bridge between Kody and one of his adult daughters depended largely on Tony's personality and Mykelti's effort, then what exactly was holding the family together all those years? That question sits at the heart of why this moment resonated so strongly with audiences. People often assume family breakdowns happen because of explosive fights or dramatic betrayals, but many real-life estrangements happen quietly. One person keeps initiating calls, arranging visits, smoothing awkward conversations, and absorbing emotional disappointment until eventually they become too tired to continue. The relationship does not collapse in flames. It simply stops moving because the person carrying it finally sets the weight down. That appears to be what many viewers believe happened here. Mykelti did not sound furious. She sounded finished. There is an enormous difference between anger and exhaustion is often far more permanent. Anger can cool down, but clarity rarely disappears once someone reaches it. Her comments also remove one of the final protective shields surrounding public perceptions of Kody's parenting. For years, supporters pointed toward Mykelti's continued closeness as evidence that not all of Kody's children felt abandoned or hurt. Her presence complicated the broader narrative surrounding the family fractures. But once she openly admitted the relationship no longer existed in the same way, and explained the mechanics behind why it had functioned at all, the conversation shifted dramatically. Suddenly, the exception no longer looked like proof that everything was misunderstood. Instead, it looked like evidence of how much effort one daughter had invested trying to preserve something already weakening beneath the surface.